There comes a moment in a woman's life when she finally understands. Attraction is not something you do. It is something you become. And as you read these words, I want you to feel a quiet, subtle shift inside your chest, as if a long-forgotten truth is rising back to the surface. Because the woman who never chases is not cold, not distant, not manipulative. She is simply anchored in herself so deeply that the world instinctively reorganizes around her presence. Take a slow breath. Let the noise of expectations dissolve. There is a line between the woman who reaches outward for validation and the woman who draws everything inward effortlessly. It is an invisible line, but men feel it immediately, in the calmness of her voice, in the softness of her posture, in the certainty of her spirit. And maybe no one ever told you this, but feminine energy is not about passivity. It is about gravity. As Carl Jung said, the woman within us is the soul. When a woman reconnects with that inner soul energy, she no longer moves toward anything that is not moving toward her. She becomes a force, not a seeker. Think of all the times you leaned forward, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, hoping that a man would meet you halfway. Think of all the times you believed that effort equals value. But now, as something subtle awakens in you, you begin to sense a deeper truth. The woman who tries to earn affection repels it, and the woman who stands in her truth magnetizes it. Effortlessly. This is the beginning of that transformation. Not through strategy, not through performance, through returning to yourself. Men feel it instantly when a woman is rooted in her feminine essence. Not chasing, not convincing, not bending. She becomes a space rather than a pursuer. A calm field that invites maturity, devotion, presence. And a man, sensing this field, steps forward not because he is chased, but because he is inspired. This is where your journey begins. Not with trying harder, but with coming home to who you are. There is something almost sacred in the moment a woman stops moving toward a man and instead allows him to reveal his own intentions. It is a shift so subtle that the world barely notices, yet men feel it instantly, like a change in the temperature of the room. Because when a woman steps into her feminine energy, that quiet, grounded essence, she stops trying to force connection and instead becomes the quiet center around which connection naturally forms. I want you to feel this now, the soft power of stillness, the calm authority of a woman who no longer overextends. You see, masculine energy moves toward what it desires, but it cannot move toward you if you are already moving toward it. And all your life, perhaps without realizing it, you were taught to chase, with your attention, your caretaking, your hope, your effort. You believed that closeness was something you created, not something you allowed. But Jung reminds us that what you resist persists, and the more you pushed toward men, the more they slipped through your fingers, not because you weren't worthy, but because pursuit blocks polarity. Feminine energy does not pursue. Feminine energy receives. Feminine energy invites. Feminine energy creates space for clarity. And when you return to that inner quiet, men instinctively adjust. Suddenly, he slows down when you slow down. He leans in when you lean back. He pays attention when your attention is no longer guaranteed. It is not a tactic, it is a realignment, a returning, a remembering. Because a woman who stops chasing becomes a mirror. And in that mirror, a man finally sees two truths: who he is and what he must become in order to stand beside her. Some men step forward with more intention, others fade away. Both outcomes are gifts. Let this settle inside you like warm light. Attraction is not earned. Attraction is awakened. And your stillness, your softness, your self-possession, they are already doing the work. There is a moment, quiet, almost imperceptible, when a woman's presence becomes more powerful than any words she could say. A moment when she no longer tries to impress, convince, or prove her worth. She simply is. And that being carries a weight, a softness, a mystery that no amount of chasing could ever create. I want you to feel that shift settling into your body now, like your spine is aligning with something ancient inside you. Because feminine energy is not loud. It does not announce itself. It does not compete. It radiates. This is why Jung said that the feminine is the symbol of the soul, because the soul does not chase. It reveals itself only to those who can truly see. Men feel this revelation instinctively. A woman rooted in her feminine doesn't flood him with access. She doesn't rush to reply, doesn't rush to fill silence, doesn't rush toward his uncertainty. And suddenly, he is the one noticing her absence, sensing her value, feeling a pull he cannot quite name. Because the woman who never chases activates something in a man that chasing never could. Desire born from curiosity, respect, and admiration, not convenience. And it is here, in this subtle space, that devotion begins. Not the kind forced by effort, but the kind awakened by presence. When you slow down, he pays attention. When you stop offering yourself too quickly, he steps forward with more intention. When you stop filling in emotional gaps, he realizes he has to bridge them himself. Your energy becomes the standard. Your pace becomes the rhythm. Your self-respect becomes the atmosphere he must rise to meet. This is attraction at its highest form, not a spark that burns fast, but a gravitational pull, a quiet magnetism, a feminine truth that whispers instead of shouts. And in this truth, something within you softens and strengthens at the same time. You begin to understand that your power was never in effort, it was in embodied presence. In the gentleness that does not collapse, in the softness that does not chase, in the calm confidence that says, if you want to know me, step closer. If you want to keep me, show me. If you want my heart, earn it. This is how the right man moves. Not because you run after him, but because your energy calls him forward. There is a certain kind of woman whose presence makes a man pause before he speaks, think before he acts, and reflect before he approaches. Not because she demands it, but because her energy silently requires it. She is the woman who never moves first, not out of pride, not out of strategy, but out of inner alignment. And I want you to feel that alignment settling into your body now, like a calm river flowing beneath your ribs. Because when a woman stops making the first move, emotionally or physically, something profound happens. She is no longer driven by fear of loss or fear of waiting. She is guided only by truth. In Jung's view, the feminine is receptive not because it is weak, but because it is whole. Wholeness doesn't chase. It attracts by simply being complete within itself. Think of how many times you've taken the first step just to ease your anxiety. How many times you texted first just to feel connected. How many times you filled the silence because you feared he might slip away. But now, something in you is shifting. You are beginning to understand that if a man wants you, he will move toward you. Masculine energy always reveals itself through action. And when he doesn't act, that too is clarity, painful, but clean. Your new power is not in withholding. It is in witnessing. You observe instead of offering. You allow instead of overcompensating. You receive instead of reaching. And suddenly, he feels the difference. He feels the space where your effort used to be. He feels the quiet where your reassurance once lived. He feels the absence of your pursuit, and it awakens his own. Not because you manipulated him, but because he can no longer hide behind your initiative. A man must reveal his nature when a woman no longer fills the gaps. He must either step forward with intention, or step back into his own unpreparedness. And both are blessings. Because the woman who does not chase becomes a threshold, a point he must cross with clarity, sincerity, and desire. She becomes the mirror that shows whether he is truly ready or simply passing time. Feel this truth deeply. You lose nothing by not moving first. You only lose the men who were never meant to stay. There is a turning point in every connection. A moment when a man finally understands that your presence is not something he can drift in and out of. And this moment comes not when you push, Not when you beg, not when you question, but when you quietly stop offering yourself in advance. Feel this settling into your body. You are no longer the woman who tries to make everything easier for others. You are no longer the woman who fills the silence, rescues the emotional gaps, or carries the weight of both hearts. You are becoming the woman who lets the dynamic reveal itself. And this is the moment he feels it. A subtle shift, a loss of automatic access, a realization that he must now earn what was once freely given. Men are more perceptive than they appear. They feel when the emotional air changes. They feel when a woman's attention is no longer guaranteed, when her softness is no longer unconditional, when her time is no longer wide open. As Carl Jung wrote, what you withdraw your energy from must transform or disappear. And when you withdraw your chase, even gently, something in him must shift. He begins to wonder what you're thinking. He begins to notice the silence he never noticed before. He begins to replay his actions, realizing he may have taken your openness as permanence. This is not punishment. This is equilibrium. This is what happens when a woman returns to herself. Your energy is no longer reaching outward. It is pulling inward, strengthening your center. And feminine energy that returns to center becomes irresistibly magnetic. Not through strategy, not through withholding, but through authenticity. This is when a man starts to approach differently, with more care, with more presence, with more clarity. He texts sooner. He plans instead of suggests. He shows up instead of drifting, because he senses something profound. You are not the woman who tries to win a man. You are the woman a man tries to win. And if he does not rise, your life continues to flow, graceful, undisturbed, and beautifully self-led. There is a kind of quiet power that enters a woman's life the moment she stops negotiating with her own emotional needs. A moment when she no longer silences her intuition, no longer bends her boundaries, no longer tries to earn warmth from someone who only offers it in fragments. And this inner shift, subtle, calm, undeniable, is what makes her magnetic in a way that chasing never could. Feel that power slowly settling into your chest. Not a loud confidence, not a rehearsed posture, but a knowing. Because when a woman finally chooses emotional self-possession, something ancient awakens within her. She no longer reacts. She no longer rushes. She no longer abandons herself to secure anyone's presence. Instead, she becomes fully present with herself, and this presence creates an unmistakable pull. As Jung said, your vision will become clear only when you look into your own heart. And when a woman looks inward, everything outward begins to rearrange. Men notice it instantly. Your calm becomes a mirror. Your silence becomes a filter. Your steadiness becomes a standard. And suddenly the same man who once hesitated begins to move with intention. He feels he can no longer rely on your emotional labor to keep the connection alive. He senses that you no longer carry the weight of the relationship alone. He recognizes that your peace is now guiding your choices. Not fear, not longing, not hope. This is the beginning of emotional polarity in its purest form. When you stop overgiving, he starts evaluating his own efforts. When you stop explaining your worth, he begins to perceive it. When you stop centering him, he begins to gravitate toward you. You see, feminine magnetism is not about making yourself desirable. It is about making yourself whole. A woman who stands whole in herself becomes impossible to replace, impossible to overlook, impossible to forget. And what draws the right man closer is not your effort, but your essence, your quiet certainty, your emotional self-respect, your refusal to chase what should come toward you voluntarily. In this space, attraction becomes effortless, because it is no longer fueled by fear. It is fueled by truth. There comes a moment when a woman stops revealing every thought, every fear, every desire the instant she feels it, and this moment changes everything. Not because she becomes distant, but because she becomes deep. And depth, true feminine depth, is magnetic in a way words cannot explain. I want you to feel this depth awakening inside you now. A soft, grounded mystery. A calm that doesn't perform. A presence that doesn't rush to be understood. You are not withholding. You are simply allowing yourself to exist without constant explanation. This is the kind of woman a man leans toward instinctively, because something in her unsettles the boy in him and awakens the man. She does not chase. She does not cling. She does not beg for clarity. Instead, she becomes a quiet invitation to step upward. Jung teaches that the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. You are no longer the one transforming yourself entirely for the relationship. Now he must transform too, or the connection dissolves. And men feel this shift with surprising intensity. They sense when a woman is no longer emotionally available on command. They sense when her world no longer revolves around their inconsistent actions. They sense that she has become her own source of fulfillment. And this is where attraction deepens into reverence. He starts thinking before speaking. He starts planning before approaching. He starts showing instead of promising. Because suddenly, the old version of you, the one who would chase, overgive, and explain, is gone. And the woman before him now requires presence, consistency, and emotional integrity without ever needing to demand it. Your mystery is not about hiding. It is about not shrinking, not performing, not giving your entire soul to someone who hasn't yet shown the capacity to hold it. You become a woman with emotional gravity, the kind a man cannot take lightly, the kind he cannot replace, the kind he must rise to meet. And the right man will rise, not because you force him, but because your energy calls forth the version of him capable of loving you. There is a moment in a woman's inner evolution when she stops measuring her worth by how quickly a man responds, how intensely he pursues, or how loudly he declares his feelings. Instead, she begins to measure herself by her own alignment, her peace, her priorities, her boundaries, her truth. And it is this shift, quiet and almost invisible, that makes her irresistible in the most natural way. Feel that truth warming through you. Feel how your energy settles when you no longer seek reassurance. Feel how your presence expands when you no longer shrink to fit someone else's pace. When a woman becomes whole, her attraction becomes effortless. She no longer tries to win. She is the win. She no longer tries to hold. She simply receives those who can stay. Jung wrote that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And when you begin living that privilege, everything in your relational world rearranges itself. Men feel this wholeness deeply. It calms them. It challenges them. It draws them nearer without you ever lifting a finger. Why? Because a whole woman does not drain. She does not cling. She does not chase shadows. She becomes a safe place, not because she sacrifices herself for others, but because she finally resides fully within herself. This is when a man starts to show up differently. He listens more. He thinks long-term. He becomes intentional rather than impulsive. He begins to understand that your heart is not a playground. It is a sanctuary. Your steadiness awakens maturity in him. Your peace inspires reliability. Your emotional self-containment calls forth his emotional leadership. And without you ever trying, you begin to embody the feminine principle that draws the masculine forward. Receptivity without desperation, warmth without overgiving, presence without pursuit. This is the kind of energy that separates you from any woman who chases. This is the kind of energy that cannot be mistaken, ignored, or replaced. This is the kind of energy that makes a man realize, if I want her, I must bring my best self to her. And the right one will. There is a turning point on every woman's journey when she finally understands that she doesn't attract better by trying harder. She attracts better by becoming better aligned with herself. And this alignment, this inner elevation, becomes the filter that quietly removes anyone who is not meant for her path. Feel that truth settle into your body now. Like an exhale you didn't know you were holding. Like relief disguised as clarity. Because a woman who knows her worth no longer fears losing a man. She fears losing herself. And when a woman refuses to abandon herself, something extraordinary happens. Those who are inconsistent fall away. Those who are confused drift aside. Those who are unprepared reveal themselves. While the man who is meant to walk beside her steps forward with unmistakable sincerity. Jung wrote that what you choose to make conscious, you make yours. And when you consciously choose your standards, not from fear, but from wholeness, they begin to shape your romantic world. Your standard becomes your guardian. Your boundary becomes your protection. Your self-respect becomes your guide. Men feel this immediately. They sense when a woman can no longer be swayed by bare minimum effort. They understand, often before you even speak, that your life does not bend just to fit their uncertainty. This is when magnetism becomes destiny. Because now the only men who approach you are those who are ready to match you. In consistency, in presence, in emotional maturity. You're no longer impressed by temporary intensity. You're drawn to devotion, steady energy, honest intention. You no longer fall for charm. You look for character. You no longer entertain potential. You respond to behavior. And as this inner refinement continues, your romantic life becomes simpler, cleaner, clearer. Not because you chase less, but because you attract from a higher place. The right men feel inspired by your standard, not intimidated. The wrong men feel uncomfortable, not because you ask too much, but because they offer too little. And this is the quiet superpower of a woman who never chases. She doesn't need to push anyone away. She simply rises. And whoever cannot rise with her naturally fades from her life. There comes a final moment in every woman's transformation. A moment so gentle, so inward, that the world around her barely notices it, yet it changes everything. It is the moment she stops trying to become magnetic, because she realizes she already is. Feel that truth wash over you now. Softly, quietly, unmistakably. This entire journey, from chasing to attracting, from overgiving to receiving, from seeking validation to embodying worth, has brought you back to the woman you were always meant to be. The woman who moves through life with a calm certainty, a grounded heart, a steady center. You are no longer pulled by fear. You are moved by intention. You are guided by inner wisdom, not external noise. And this inner state, this emotional sovereignty, is what makes the right man step forward with devotion, not hesitation. Because now he senses something sacred in you. A woman who is open, but not exposed. Warm, but not self-sacrificing. Receptive, but not desperate. Loving, but never losing herself. In Jung's view, the true power of a woman emerges when she unites her conscious strength with her deeper, intuitive soul. And that is exactly what you have done. You have become whole, not because someone chose you, but because you chose yourself. And in that wholeness, attraction becomes effortless. You no longer chase. You no longer try to persuade, prove, or perform. Your life flows in its own rhythm, and those meant for you naturally match that rhythm. The right man feels it instantly. He feels the peace in your presence. He feels the stability in your heart. He feels the quiet confidence in your boundaries. And he steps forward, not because you push him, but because your energy pulls him. This is the final embodiment of feminine magnetism. A woman who does not chase the world, because she knows the world comes to her. So as you stand here, at the end of this journey, yet at the beginning of a new one, I want you to remember one truth. One that echoes through every part of your life from this moment on. You attract what aligns with your soul. You release what is not. And you rise without forcing anything. If you've reached this final part, write in the comments, I attract by being. I want to see the women who felt every word until the very end.